This week we're looking at something that concerns many of us on this spiritual awakening journey, and that is getting stuck in waiting for a better future version of ourselves. Welcome to my channel. I'm Aliki. I appreciate your time, your attention, and your comments. If the process of awakening or living in the now is misunderstood, then the mind will create an imagined future self that is fully at home in the now. One day, the mind says, I will achieve the state of being fully in the now, and then I'll be awake, thereby ensuring that you will never reach it. This is a dilemma of many spiritual seekers who have been seeking for many years. They've been seeking for many years and not realizing that their mind has created a state to be achieved in the future. I'm aspiring towards that state, and that state is a perfected, more enlightened or awake form of me. Of course, you will never reach it because continuously you have the idea in your mind that there is a state to be reached. So you miss continuously the only place where the state can be reached, which is now. We need to let go of this idea that awakening is a future state to be achieved. Awakening can only happen in the present moment. One day, the mind says, I will achieve the state of being fully in the now, and then I'll be awake. Let's change those words up a little bit. One day, I'll achieve the state of being content with what I have, and then I'll be satisfied. One day, I'll achieve the state of appreciating the people in my life, and then I'll be happy with my relationships. Or how about this one? One day, I'll have enough of everything I want, and then I'll be happy. That one day can only ever be this day. In other words, today. Otherwise, you're living this imagined life. There's nothing wrong with an imagined life, but if you live there all the time, you're out of touch with reality, and you're going through life as someone who's stuck in a dream world, seeing nothing but a mirage. It's very important to understand that this is how the mind works. You know, it creates this imagined future self, this version of you that's so much better than the version of you that you have to live with at the moment. But it's a fantasy world. And it's a fantasy world that can keep you quite miserable for most of your life if you're not aware of it. The mind creates an imagined future self that's at home in the now, Eckhart says. It creates an imagined future self that doesn't have any problems. But this just brings you into the opposite of gratitude, resentment, right? Resentment for your lot, a resistance to your life as it is in this moment, a dislike, sometimes even a self-loathing of the person that you are. How can we enjoy life if we're thinking this way all the time? We need to let go of this idea that enlightenment, fulfillment, happiness, joy, peace, love, wisdom, all these things that our heart yearns for. We need to let go of this idea that there's something to be achieved in the future, one day, someday. As long as you believe that these are all things to be attained one day, that there's this future state that your mind has convinced you you have to achieve, you're never going to get there because it's always in the future. Do you see? If you're in that state of wanting something, and believing it's going to happen sometime in the future, that perpetuates itself. Every day you wake up believing the same thing, living the same way. One day, maybe convincing yourself that you're getting closer and getting closer, but the day never seems to actually arrive. Or if it does, perhaps it's not what you thought it was, and you end up feeling disappointed. The answer always seems to be to come back to now, doesn't it? And realize that this imagined life that the mind creates isn't where we actually want to be living, because you can't feel satisfied there. It's just not real enough to satisfy us. It's always just out of reach, just around the corner, just after the next hurdle. And believe me, I know, because if there's one thing I can boast about, it's that I spent decades of my life chasing this better version of myself. I was convinced that this better version of Aliki would appear in another country, in another job, in another relationship, in another set of circumstances. I was there. I was convinced. That better, self-confident, happy, wise and free Aliki didn't show up in the places I thought she would. And it wasn't until many years later I discovered that actually she had been here all along, hiding behind my insecure thoughts. Whether you know it or not, you cannot be anywhere else other than here and now. You're given only one moment at a time, and you're wasting that moment planning or worrying about the future. And the future never comes. In your very worrying about the future, you're wasting the present, and slowly, it becomes your second nature to worry about the future. So when the future comes, it will come as the present, and because of your habit of worrying about the future, you will waste that moment also in worrying. You will go on worrying about the future for your whole life. Live intensely and totally now, because the next moment will be born out of this moment. And if you have lived it totally and joyously, you can be absolutely certain that the next moment will bring more blessings, more joy. Stop worrying about the future. If tomorrow comes, you will be there, and if you know how to live joyously and dancingly, your tomorrow will also be full of dance and joy. You're asking, is it really possible to be in the here now all the time? This is the only possibility. You cannot be anywhere else. Even if you are worrying about the future, that too is being done here, now. You cannot be anywhere else, whatever you do. Existence allows only this space of here and now. Now is such a meaningful word because that is your whole life. And now is stretched from your birth to your death, but it is always now. Osho reminds us very strongly that this is the only moment we have. This moment is life. This is the only moment you have. This is life. Not what you remember of the past, not what you imagine of the future, but this, here, now. The trees, the birds, the breath, the fresh air, the sky, the earth. A delightful absence of stress. This is what this moment has for us. Even when you're in the midst of busyness and so much going on in your life, this moment is still here as a beautiful moment, inviting you to be present. This moment is still here as your life, waiting to be realized. This moment is always here, waiting for you to be present with it. You know, if you feel that you're too busy to be present with this moment, you're missing life. You're completely missing it. You don't want to come to the end of it having missed it. I don't want you to miss life. I don't want you to miss this moment over and over again, every day. This is why I make these videos and why this channel exists. So start small, start easy. What about the next time you have a drink? Actually being present while you drink. Actually experiencing that feeling of drinking, what it feels like, from holding it in your hand to bringing it to your lips and to feeling it go down into your body. Experience what it actually means to be alive, not living in this conceptual world of your mind all day. What's really interesting about what Osho says is that he says, live intensely and fully in this moment because the next moment will be born out of this moment. Think about that for a minute. The next moment will be born out of this moment. So actually, if you're in a state of waiting and wanting and wishing and desiring, that's what you're going to get more of. If you feel that you can stop the crazy hamster wheel of the psychological realm for a moment, slow down and actually become fully present with something that's here with you now, then you may find, oh, I quite like it here. It's kind of peaceful. Then you may find that the next moment will be more of this. And the next moment will be more of this. Today really is a sacred gift. If you realize that you've been having a lot of low mood thinking, just don't have that spark of life anymore in you. You know, you're just going through life in this defeated way. Try shifting gear. Shift it into P for present instead of M for missing. Find yourself back here in this moment with whatever is here with you. Give the drama of life a break. The divine law is very simple. The more we have of God, the more we have of happiness and freedom and bliss. The more we have of ego, the more we have of suffering. There is no aspect of creation that isn't radiant with the vibration of the perfect spirit. It's only our little egos that draw the fences that separate us from that spirit. And within these fences we create tremendous agitation and concern based on our small perception of ourselves. Spiritual practice is a question of slowly but steadily escaping from our identification with the little ego and realizing that in our truest definition, we are one with God. The ego cannot free itself. It's not as if the ego can talk itself out of being an ego. Freedom from ego identification has to come by the grace of God.
It comes by attuning ourselves to a reality that exists beyond the ego's narrow realm. It comes by obeying the divine law and by following the counsel and guidance of the masters.
Asha says that spiritual practice is slowly but steadily separating ourselves from this identification we have with our little ego and realizing that actually we're one with God. It's all about mistaken identity. It's about you believing that you are a certain way that somehow never seems to be good enough, does it? But the thing is, it's not about trying to improve yourself or trying to convince yourself or trying to ignore yourself. It's not about trying to do anything, really. It's the trying that gets us into trouble. And this is something we've learned from an early age. Effort, effort, effort. Try hard. Take these steps, and then you will reach your goal. But in the spiritual realm, things don't work that way. No, they work quite differently, actually. It seems that the more effort you're putting in, the further away you're getting from where you want to be. And that's because, as the masters tell us, you and I are already that. Everything that we want is here, now. But it's hidden behind the veil of our thinking mind, with all its concepts, ideas, and opinions. So we must learn, day by day, not to pay it so much attention, and to keep coming back again and again and again, relentlessly, to this moment, to this state of presence, where there is no separation between you and this moment. It's all here. It's all right here, right now. It seems too good to be true, doesn't it? In all the busyness, in all the problems, in all the drama, come back. Come back to the stillness within you. Just for a moment. Just for a few seconds. The next moment is born out of this moment. So when you come here, when you come back to this state of presence, which is the only place that actually exists, you may find that you kind of want to hang out here a little bit longer. The place where you can recenter, regroup, ground yourself before taking the next step in the game of life. So this week, become aware when you're creating inner resistance, when you're arguing with life, fighting with what is, because you have this idea that things should be different, things should be better, things just aren't good enough. They're never good enough. Recognize this in yourself and start to relax. Relax back into this moment. Relax back into the reality of life, the blessings of what's here with you right now. This is the state you've been looking for and searching for all these years, this peace beyond understanding. In this peace, in this gratitude, you will find that satisfaction, that deep satisfaction and contentment that you've always longed for. And you'll realize, oh my goodness, it was actually here all along. And I didn't realize it because I was so busy looking somewhere else for it, in other things that I thought would give me this feeling that I have right now. All these things that you've been waiting for are here, right now, They really are. Unless you believe they're not. So this week, give the you of the future a little break and focus on the you of now. Say yes to the present moment again and again and again, and discover the freedom of not having to wait for anything. Thank you for joining me week after week. I love this little community that's growing around this channel, and I love connecting with all of you. Especially appreciate you sharing these videos, because it means that they can get out there to more people, to spread this awareness of practical spirituality and the importance of getting to know the wisdom within you. It really is life-changing and something that we all need so much, something that the world needs really. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.